Let's go to Gonzaga, Alabama. 10-point win for the Zags in a not-so-neutral site this afternoon. Brandon Miller was spectacular. Drew Timme was spectacular. If you listen to the start of my show, I thought the Gonzaga guards were spectacular. This was one of the most entertaining games of the day, if not the most entertaining game of the day, depending on how you view the end game of North Carolina, Ohio State. Matt, let's go to you. Any concerns from your end that Alabama lost this one? They've been so damn good lately. It's hard to really be concerned. But anything that was raised in this game that you didn't know beforehand?
I hope like us on the field of 68 aren't jinxing these teams, right? Because we seem like we always have a team that comes on, they have a huge win like Alabama did last weekend. We praise them, we get Nate Oates on here, and then the next game they end up dropping. So I hope the field of 68 we're not jinxing these teams. But no, I don't. Credit Gonzaga. All right. I always mispronounce Gonzaga, and the fans get so mad at me on the field of 68. They get so mad. So I don't want to not say the name. But think about the schedule that they've played up to this point in time, right? So credit Mark Few and his team. Michigan State, Texas, Kentucky, Purdue, Xavier, Washington, Alabama. Okay. So they've played a much more challenging schedule up to this point than 98% of the country, if not 99% of the country, maybe 100% of the country. So they're battle tested, and they've been in these games, and they've been in these challenging games. And when these games come down to the wire, whatever, on the road, neutral site, I know we were talking about it before on the air. Was this a neutral site game? It was in Birmingham. I got to think that I don't know how many fans traveled from Spokane down to Birmingham. I'd say they may have a little bit, but I'd say the Crimson Tide had a lot more fans, especially since they're not in the college football playoff, right? It's more now we've shifted completely to basketball there in Birmingham. But I'm not concerned about Alabama. Listen, they had 21 turnovers in the game. That's 21 missed shot opportunities, and they lose by 10. That's the difference in the game. Drew Timme was absolutely outstanding, and Brandon Miller. But him and himself, as good as he was on offense and all the points and all the baskets he scored, he had 6 turnovers in himself. He had 6 out of the 21 turnovers that the team had. So had they done a better job taking care of the basketball, the game could have been different. But I think defensively for them, you can't give up that amount of points and expect to win and turn the basketball over. But listen, we know what they can do. We saw them last weekend on the road against Houston. Obviously, Houston bounced back this weekend as well. So I don't think there's a big cause for concern. I think they got to do a much better job taking care of the basketball, and you can't give up that many points in a quote-unquote neutral site game and expect to win.
Tyler, watching this game play out, honestly, sort of brought me back to not just you. Like every couple years, there's a guy who you're like, how is this dude still in college? And very rarely, it's the guy who is also the National Player of the Year candidate, right? Like you apply there. Luka Garza a couple years ago applied there. To me, this was just like oh yeah, Gonzaga has Drew Timme game. Like we've kind of rolled our eyes over the last few weeks at, this Gonzaga team has problems. Well, they still have Drew Timme, and he sort of just reminded the world of that. Did you see that today?
I think Drew Timme is obviously one of the best players in college basketball right now. And actually before the season, I thought he'd be the National Player of the Year before Zach Edey from Purdue started playing like a madman. But
you got to get Tyler to pronounce it right. It's Edey.
Zach Edey. I'm a big fan.
Tyler, you said you're talking about Twitter. They're going to come after you now.
We're going to help you.
You didn't. Yeah, you're not helping yourself there.
So what's it? How do you say
correctly?
Is it
Edey?
Edey? All right.
Yep. Edey.
I'm a big fan of Edey, and big reasons because I like big men. I like to see people go to work in the post, but he is my favorite player to watch. But Drew Timme is probably my second favorite. And I will tell you, Alabama is really good defensively interiorly because when I watched them play against Carolina, they have a lot of bigs and a lot of athletes. So it's not easy to do the work that he did today against them. But to me, I think this was a huge win for Gonzaga just because I feel like they needed another player to really step up and help relieve some pressure for Timme. And I think the freshman Watson definitely did that. But Gonzaga, they might end the season with their strength of schedule might be weaker than all these teams. And the reason I say that is because they've got to book these or schedule these tough games before their conference starts because they probably won't have a top 50 player or top 50 team in that conference. And that's always been a knock for me. And I've always kind of disrespected Gonzaga because of the conference they play in. So I respect them coming out and trying to get some of these tough games. And I think they need to win games like this because they're not going to get these quality wins in their conference play.
It's a different Gonzaga program than when you played too. They're more consistent now. They do schedule. This is the most difficult non-conference schedule that Mark Few and Gonzaga have ever played, and they always play a tough one because he knows that the WCC isn't loaded, and this year it's probably weaker than I don't want to say ever, but BYU's not great. St. Mary's is always going to be good, but they're not great. So I think they challenge themselves. And as Greg said to start the show, those guards are the biggest question. We know what we're going to get out of Drew Timme every night. If his guards don't help him, he's screwed because, especially, listen, the fact that he did it against a long and athletic, super athletic front line of Alabama is really impressive because that's when you always worry. And I worried about it with you a little bit, Tyler. I think you're a little bit taller than Drew Timme is, but you worry about that because you weren't blessed athletically like some of these dudes. Mm-hmm. So how hard is it sometimes to go up against some of these front lines that Drew Timme is seeing today with these athletic dudes that are long as hell and can jump?
Yeah, when I see his game, the way he gets positioned in the post and his jump hooks are unbelievable. And I kind of had the ability to make a jump hook with contact. I think that's one thing that Drew Timme has gotten down, like his pound, and then just turn around jump hook game is unbelievable. And he has a lot of spins too. He's a big spin guy in the post, which I'm a big fan of because he can misdirection people, like he just rip right to his right and then spin to his left, pump fake, go back to the right. He has a lot of that in his game. And, that's skill. And also that's being intelligent, being an intelligent basketball player, using pump fakes and position to score, which, just goes to, maybe because of his experience, seems like he's been starting ever since he's a freshman. He's got that to his game, and I love to watch it. And it's old school basketball I love.